Hey everybody.
How are you doing today?
Hey man, I'm doing good. I'm just it's the busiest time of the year.
It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is
Yeah.
crazy. It's I need a I think I said it last time, I need a vacation.
And then I need to
Still
be
waiting on.
my vacation. Yeah, I hear that. So speaking of vacations, my youngest son and his two children and wife missed their flight this morning. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, going to Fort Myers, Florida. So they had to split up and go different ways. And he called me to see if I could come to Nashville during they had a 4 hour layover. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm going to be on a Spark Live. Can't do that. So I
oh man.
missed it, but yeah, it was funny. Anyway, I'm really excited about this particular topic. I don't know if we've really talked about this before. I was trying to remember and see if we've ever discussed like logos and taglines. So,
I think we mentioned it like way back when we were doing the marketing minutes.
uh-huh.
I think we talked a little bit about logo design then, but it was short and sweet. We didn't go into nearly this kind of detail.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about really creating an effective logo and tagline and maybe some shortcuts on some of it. But let's go ahead and get in this. So you're really the logo guy, all right? I mean, seriously.
Done a few.
So do what?
I said I've done a few.
Yeah, you have. So what do you think about when designing logos and taglines? I know the first thing that I think about is simplicity, but I also think about simplicity when it comes to ads. I know a lot of people try to put a whole lot of stuff in ads. So tell me a little bit about the simplicity you look at when you're designing a logo.
Yeah, it needs to be understandable at a glance. The human brain can take in about five things at once before it starts having to make decisions about what the most important thing it's looking at really is. Right. So, any more than five elements in and five's pushing it. I mean, five is a lot. More than five elements, and you're asking the person who's viewing your logo to start making executive decisions about what the most important thing is. And the first question is, what is this? Why does it matter to me? Right? Like, why should this matter? What in this logo is important to me that tells me that this is something I need to pay any attention to at all? And you know, the more you give a customer to sort through, the more you're asking them to work, the less likely it is that they're going to remember you when the time comes. So it really is important to keep things simple, not because simple looks better. I mean, I've seen some very complex designs for logos that were beautiful, just absolutely beautiful. But, you know, the thing about them that was memorable was how ornate and everything they were. And we're going to get into this and talk about making sure that your logo is suitable for a lot of different applications, right? The same logo in multiple different places, types of places, being workable. And this particular logo looked great on the screen and looked awful everywhere else that logo needed to be to identify that company. So it was beautiful, but it sucked in terms of its purpose. So I think simple is the thing that we strive for, that we want something that's an identity mark, right? They talk about this, a trademark, right? It's a very symbolic way of saying this is who we are, and this is our brand, this is our trademark. And you want to definitely make sure that that it's memorable in that way. So lots of colors, lots of shapes, lots of items or emblems or things going on is just going to complicate what you're really trying to convey.
Okay. So when you talk about brand identity, I've got a couple of questions on this because, you know, some people look at brand identity and they think, well, I'm a chimney sweep, but I've also, I do chimney, or it could be HVAC too. I've seen this, where I do the chimney work, I do sweeping, I do repair, but we also may do gutters, and we may do. I mean, we got people that do a little bit of everything on some of it. So, when you say reflect my brand identity, a lot of people think that means throw everything in there that I do.
Yeah, right.
So explain the difference between, using a logo to really tell people who you are, not necessarily what you do.
Yeah, I think think a great example of that is Kraft Foods. Okay, the Kraft logo. Everybody can probably picture that in their head right now. Another one is Nestle. You can think of maybe your favorite food brand, and General Mills is another one with that big G, the blue G. They make hundreds, maybe even thousands of products. Johnson and Johnson is another one. But that's not their brand. The products that they make aren't their brand. They're in terms of their visual brand.
Mhm.
Their brand is something that's very distinct and very different, and it doesn't necessarily have to speak to all of the things that they do. So I once had a therapist tell me that he said, you're going to be in trouble if you go through life thinking that you are what you do, right? That your significance comes from the things that you do.
Mhm.
You got to figure out who you are outside of the things that you do, and make and get to know yourself that way. Okay, well, it's good advice. Let's look at it in light of a brand. Your brand is more than what you do, right?
Right.
You are more than what you do. So your logo really doesn't need to say every single thing that you do. Neither does your company name, for that matter. But it should feel like it's in place. Like if I look at a logo without knowing what the company does, but it's on a service truck that's rolling down the highway at 50 miles an hour with ladders on top, and a pretty truck wrap with flames and bricks and everything else, that logo should look at home in that setting, right? It should look like it belongs there, so that even though it doesn't necessarily say by itself what the company does, the context of everything else, it immediately feels like, yeah, that's an appropriate logo. That's the right look for that kind of a business, and that's maybe a hard thing to dial in or to think about, but it is something that designers think about. This logo has to stand on its own, but it also has to be, look appropriate in its place, surrounded by the context of what that business does.
That reminds me of a logo I remember you did actually for a computer company. That was, you gave them 4 or 5, I think 3 actually deals, and then you did one aside that you really liked, that was fun, but you didn't think that they would really be a go for it,
Yeah,
and we were both surprised when they loved it. And what the name of the company was, Sublime Computers.
Sublime Computers.
Yeah, and it was a submarine made out of a lime.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just a really great logo, and we were shocked at that, but it really did portray who they were. And
Yeah, they like to have a little fun, and
yeah,
they wanted to be memorable. And that's an industry where everybody is, um, just
pretty much the same.
a pretty boring name and difficult to remember. Everybody's looking for, Advantage IT or
Yeah,
things like that. And it doesn't really say a whole lot. And so Sublime was one of those words that just wasn't by itself going to really stand out. So to have a little fun with the word, a visual pun on that was fun, and it was appropriate, and it was, we made it look as though it belonged to an IT company,
right.
but it was something that helped it become a little bit more memorable.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. So you touched on this next piece a little bit, ensure scalability and versatility. This is one of the things that I talk to people about when they ask me about logos. Okay. When they say, hey, tell me about the logo, tell me about, what's going on. uh, what should I do? What should I look for? And this is one of the things that I always remember that you've taught me, and that is it doesn't matter how big it gets or how small it gets. It needs to be identifiable. So talk a little bit about all the different ways people use logos and when we think of a logo, where it needs to fit.
Yeah, the I'm surprised at how many logo designers don't really think about this, but and maybe they do think about it, but they don't care, and that's even worse to me because a logo designer absolutely should care. I these services like Fiverr and 99 Designs, you can get some pretty interesting logos, things that really go, ooh, I like that. But um, one of the questions that you need to ask if you go that route, or if you're working with a professional branding agency, um, you want to ask the question: how is this logo going to be presented to the world? How many different places is it going to be seen? What contexts will it be seen in? What is it going to be next to? What is it going to be on? How big is the thing that it's going to be on? How small is it? Will that little bitty text at the bottom, actually be readable at some sizes? On a screen, on print. Remembering that screen resolution is not nearly as good as print resolution by a factor of over 3 to 1. So, there's a lot of places that a logo needs to be. Clothing is another example. How would it look embroidered? I mean, think about your resolution with thread. I mean, you're allowing thread to be, to define the shape of letters and words and colors and everything else. How's it going to look when it's embroidered on a shirt? Those are important things to think about, and it's best to think about them before you invest a lot of money in your favorite design, only to realize that when it's on the side of a truck speeding down the road at 50 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour, nobody can make out what it says. Nobody can even read, see it long enough to be able to read all of the small print that's at the bottom, or make out the shapes that you've decided to include. So it's
which I'm also going to say this. A lot of people think that they're so in love with their logo. They want their logo to be the biggest thing on their truck. And I'm like, yeah, no, it needs to be kind of medium on the truck. What you want on the truck that's the biggest thing is your website address and a phone number. That's what you need, because you're speeding down the truck at 50 miles an hour. So,
yep, yeah. Phone number absolutely should be the most visible thing. Doesn't necessarily have to be the biggest thing. I mean, in terms of like actual real estate, the size of it, but it needs to be, at a glance, the phone number needs to be the first thing that jumps out at you on the truck.
Very, very, very readable.
Yeah. So scalability is I'll just say one other thing about that. Some designers, inexperienced designers, will design a logo as a bitmap image or a JPEG or a PNG or something like that, rather than a vector image or a vector file that allows it to scale to infinite, proportions, right? So a vector file is nothing but a bunch of math in the file that tells, something about coordinates and colors and shapes and things like that. So that as it gets bigger and bigger, it recalculates that math in order to continue drawing that logo proportionately and for it to look really sharp at any size. So scalability is something that's important, but remember to ask to make sure that your logo is being designed as a vector logo, and that when it's delivered to you, because you're going to be shown some JPEGs and proofs and things like that online that are going to be bitmaps. Those are not your final logo. Your final logo needs to be a vector file.
Yeah, and this is another thing I'm going to bring up, because I have seen some people kind of being held hostage, that every time, they ask for their vector file, they get sent something else. I mean, we've had this happen. And it's like, no, what we really need is the vector file. And they've had to go pay additional money for something they've already paid for. So it's really, really important that you make sure up front when you order something or when you're doing business with somebody, you will get the vector file at the end. I think that's a great point. And I'm going to go back and show some of these comments in a minute, but we're going to get through here for a second. So timeliness and longevity. Tell me about that.
Well, I mean, there's a trend right now that I don't mind. I mean, I kind of like some of the aesthetic of it, and it appeals to a certain kind of market. But this sort of retro design aesthetic, it's a way of kind of nodding to, especially in an industry like chimney, where there's a rich history of chimney sweeping across the world. It's a cool way of sort of nodding to that history without saying that we're antiquated or stuck in the past. And so you can bring some of that forward. It's usually a more organic kind of a look, but it can also be. This is where the logos can become a little more complicated, a little more less simple and more design elements and things like that. So. I wouldn't say I'm on the fence about whether to use those, but if you're doing it, you need to know that those kinds of retro designs tend to appeal to a much younger audience than I mean, like, people who may not even own homes yet. So it's something to think about, that it's a subtle design, it's classic looking, but it may not be appealing to the kinds of people in your market. And that's one of the things, I think Renee said it before, one of the things that I've always said is that, your logo isn't just to make you happy, it's also to resonate with your customers. Your customers have to see that logo and feel like they can identify with it and the need that they have. Otherwise, it's not really serving its purpose. So timelessness, yeah. I would say timelessness and longevity are, you want to get 10 years out of your logo, okay? Probably not much more than that. You're going to be redesigning in 10 years. You're going to be thinking about what your business is at that point. You're going to want to do some tweaks and some redesigns and refresh it. Refreshes are good. They're good for business. They help people see that this is not a stagnant company. This company is evolving into, it's getting better. It's a part of our community and it's growing alongside us. So that's important. So 10 years on the outside, that's kind of what you're looking at. You could probably even look at 4 or 5 years these days as being a kind of a refresh rate for a logo. But 10 years is that's certainly no less than that.
So here's something that Terry said: in order to know the design, you need to know who your target audience is. Absolutely 100%. I love this. Renee went out and found the Sublime logo. It's catchy. So there you go. It's still there. It's still catchy. Here's talking about redoing your logo. Yeah, Chuck, I like your new logo better than your old one. There you go, Chuck. And here's Chuck's comments. Keep it simple, stupid. Clean design. Purple is soothing. Yep. Color of royalty. We can tell who the purple guy is in the room. We make chimneys healthy. Boom. You guys, y'all are fun. That's for sure. So let's talk a little bit about taglines. One of the things that first and foremost, you don't have to have a tagline. That's first and foremost. You do not have to have a tagline. And so there are people that's like, oh, I've got to have a tagline. We got to figure it out. I mean, I was on somebody's, I can't remember who it was. I was looking at websites or something the other day, and they created this song. And so it was a video of this guy playing the song, and it was awful. I mean, just God awful. I'm thinking, why would anybody put that on there? But apparently it works. Maybe it's one of those deals that's so bad that it's memorable,
Cringe, you can't look away.
Yeah. Just like, ugh.
Yeah. That works. I mean, that could absolutely work.
Yeah, sometimes it does. But oh my gosh, I was just, it was shocking to me. It was like, oh, okay.
What I always get tickled at is and it's a mistake, but if you get really cutesy with the name of your company, but
Mm,
nobody understands what it means unless they
yeah.
read the tagline beneath it to help kind of put it in a context and help that be understood, then you've gone too far with the cute, right? It's always better to be clear than to be cute.
Yeah. So
So
I was going to say clarity is king when it
yeah,
comes to your logo, when it comes to your tagline, and people always ask me, what's the best way to do a tagline? And so I'll be honest with you. It's just thinking through, trying to figure it out. What do I do? How can I say it succinctly? I mean, just go through the still, but I did something. I used AI to create a tagline. So let me just read some of the taglines that I got from AI, and I did this right before we started. So
oh,
I haven't really read over, and made my pick yet. But my prompt was, give me 10 taglines for a chimney service company. That was it. That was my one prompt. So here's what I got from that. You ready?
yep.
We're the smoke whisperers, quality chimney service, clearing the way for cozy fires. Soot happens, we can help. Leave the dirty work to us, fanning the flames of exceptional service. We keep the home fires burning safely. Now, there's that safely word, so you know how that goes. Your chimney's best friend, sweeping away your chimney worries. How about this one? From ashes to excellence, your chimney service solution. That's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, chimney care crafted with integrity. So the thing about AI, if you liked any of those and you really want to come up with a tagline, you can actually take the one or two that you like and say, hey, give me more like this, but make it shorter, make it more concise, make it, however you want to do. And literally it spit this stuff out in 15 seconds. That was it. I mean, it was really, really quick. Because it was right before we started. So just know, taglines now are pretty easily accessible. I would say the more information you gave it, if you put something in, give me 10 taglines for a chimney company that specializes in air quality and healthy chimneys, it's going to spit out 10 different ones than what I just got. So the more concise and precise that you are in the prompt on ChatGPT, then the better output you're going to get. But you can have these conversations back and forth and until you get something that you really like. So that's just a really kind of a shortcut to help you create a really nice tagline. And you got some really good help, and you don't have to go out and hire a branding company with that. Now, if you wanted to write a song, I don't know about that. Maybe that's what they did. Get a little AI singing going on with that other thing. But
Well, Google does have an AI that will write music and compose or do
do
compositions.
compositions, yeah, yeah. I haven't heard a lot of good things about it, but they do have it, yeah. So same with the art stuff. I haven't heard a lot about that, but there's a lot of cool things that Google is doing. So when they release, I mean, it's in beta right now, and I can't get to it. Have you been able to sign up for it? Because I've not been able to.
They're releasing it to people that signed up for the beta, and I think they're just going in order. So the pre-invitation list was up over a month ago, and people had been signing up for it. So I don't know how quickly they'll roll it out for everybody on that invitation list.
I don't either, but it's pretty cool. So, guys, I know we didn't ask. You appreciate Chuck and Renee gave us a heart today, gave us some love. Really appreciate that. If you can give us some thumbs up and love, that would be awesome. But I do know we're coming up on 30 minutes here, so just wanted to let you know that Spark Live is also released as a podcast. We are on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Podvine, or your favorite player, however you want to do it. So here's another really interesting topic we're going to get into next week. We're going to get into crafting a unique selling proposition, a USP, This is different than your tagline. So, we're going to talk about it. We're going to dissect it and figure out the best way that you can craft it and use it in your business. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate the love and the likes that you're giving us. Always enjoy you guys being on all the time. And Lou, thank you for letting Chuck know that his first logo just wasn't good enough. Appreciate that. And I'm sure he appreciate that feedback too. So it's awesome. Thanks so much, guys. Y'all have a great rest of your week.
Bye, everybody.